Thanks for tuning in for example 2 of finding the slope of 2 points. And we'll start with our example. I have -1, -2 as my first point, and -3, -4 is my second point. I like to keep things a little bit simple, so I apologize for the numbers, but this is the only thing I could think of on the fly. All right, so the first thing I like to do is to remind myself of the formula. So I have y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Okay, then after I remind myself of the formula, I like to label my x and y sub 1, my x and y sub 2. So I'm going to do that here. All right, so being that this is my first coordinate, this will be my x or y sub 1. And being that this is my second coordinate, this will have the subscript of 2. All right, so I know that every coordinate point has an x and a y. And I know x is always first and y is always second. Being that this is my first coordinate, this is x and y sub 1. Being that this is my second coordinate, this is x sub 2 and y sub 2. And this is how I label the things that go inside of the formula. All right, so now it's time to plug everything in. So I have y sub 2, and I know my y sub 2 is -4. And anytime I plug in a negative inside of a formula, I don't know, call it a habit, I'm not sure. I like to put it around parentheses, put parentheses around it, I apologize. I like to put parentheses around it. It makes things a little bit easier to see, and it makes it look not so hard. So I'm going to do that here. I plugged in a -4 for y sub 2, so I'm putting it in parentheses. Minus, and also y sub 1 is -2. This minus sign does not take the place of the -2. So I also need to put -2 in parentheses. It makes things a little bit easier to see. Just imagine if we didn't have parentheses, things will look a bit more complex than they ought to be. All right, same thing here. X sub 2 is -3, so again, I'm putting that in parentheses. Minus x sub 1 is -1, and I'm putting that in parentheses. All right, so I have -4 minus -2 over or divided by -3 minus -1. Now that I have that, that part over with, now I can just use my integer rules in order to solve. All right, so anytime you see minus a negative, you see two negative signs back to back like this. All right, you see that in the top and you see that in the bottom, in the numerator and denominator. Okay, I like to use this thing we call keep, change, change. All right, so I keep the first one, or the first integer. I change my sign, so my minus sign becomes a plus sign, and I change my second integer. Okay, so I keep my first one, so that's -4. I change my minus sign to a plus sign, and I change my -2 to a +2. All right, and this is how things look now. It looks a little bit easier, right? Over, I do the same thing. I'm keep, change, change. So I keep my -3, I change my minus sign to a plus sign, and I change my -1 to a +1. All right, so I have -4 plus 2 over -3 plus 1. And this is the simpler way of writing this up here. All right, so again, we're going to use our integer rules one more time. And for the numerator, I have -4 plus 2. Now, I like to use counters in order to find these things. A lot of people don't, being that I guess they believe it's elementary, but it helps me out a lot. So if I have -4, I'm going to represent -4 by, 4 red counters. 4 red counters. Again, the red side represents negative, and the yellow side, of course, represents positive. So I have -4 plus 2. And this one has a little marker on it. All right, I have -4 plus 2. So what I'm going to do is match up my red or my negative with my positive. So for each one, I'm going to match up. All right, so that's one match, and this is 2 match. So what's left? I have 2 red ones left. So if I have 2 red, then that means my answer is -2. Divided by, we're going to do the same thing for The denominator, I have negative 3, so I'm going to represent that by 3 red counters, plus 1, and I'm going to represent that by a yellow counter. So again, I'm going to match up all the things that match, and I have 1 negative, 1 positive. All I have left is 2 red, so that represents negative 2. This is a very easy way to teach integers, so I definitely suggest that everyone uses positive and negative counters. Now I have negative 2 over negative 2. So when you have the same number on top as well as the bottom, or the same thing in the numerator as well as the denominator, then your answer is always 1. So that means the slope of these 2 points up here is 1. And so this video, of course, served its purpose. I found the slope of 2 points. I hope you enjoyed watching. Please comment below if you have any questions.